My name is Julie. I wasn't always the kind of woman who gets called homeless in front of a five-star ballroom packed with Atlanta's finest. Men in tailored suits worth more than my first car. Women in glittering gowns stitched with smugness. I wasn't always the kind of woman people dismissed. But tonight I let her believe I was nothing. I stood just inside the marble entrance of the Grey Orchid, my hotel. Mine. The floors gleamed under soft golden light. The scent of fresh jasmine danced in the air, the exact touch I ordered from my floral director. Every waiter, every bottle of imported champagne, every velvet rope had been arranged under my command. I built this place from the ground up after crawling through hell, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. And the guest of honor? My sister, Isabel Marshall, didn't know a damn thing. She hadn't changed. 30 years old and still thinking the world should fall to its knees just because she showed up in a dress. Tonight she wore gold, literally, a sequined custom piece that hugged her figure like sin and sparkled like stolen money. She came in on the arm of Derek Calloway, a Wall Street shark who looked like he spent more time in tanning beds than boardrooms. I knew his type. Slick hair, thin patience, thicker wallet. The ballroom exploded in cheers as she arrived. Camera flashes, clinks of crystal. But all I could hear was the echo of my childhood, her laugh, sharp and mocking, when she humiliated me in front of our friends. Her voice, cold and shrill, when she convinced our mother I stole her necklace. And the absolute silence she offered when I was cut out of our father's will, left with a bag and a boot print on my life. I didn't step into the spotlight. Not yet. Timing mattered. Instead, I stood near the concierge desk, where a small brass plaque hung quietly on the wall. Owner, Julie Marshall. I wanted her to see it at the right moment, not from me telling her, but from reality slapping her across the face. The hotel buzzed with the kind of people who measure worth by digits in their bank account. Isabel had surrounded herself with the exact crowd that once looked down on me. I saw one of our old Charleston neighbors, Mrs. Holloway, sipping a martini and talking to a man I recognized from a magazine cover. Of course, Isabel made the party guest list a public statement. Then she saw me. It happened in a slow, sickly turn. Her icy blue eyes locked on mine across the lobby. For a second, confusion passed through her features, recognition trying to claw its way out of her pride. But that was crushed immediately by that same sneer I remembered from our teenage years. "Oh my God," she said loudly enough to make several heads turn. "Security! Get that homeless woman out of here." The room stilled. She pointed at me, a crooked finger weighed down by a diamond ring I knew she didn't pay for. "This is private," she barked. "She's loitering." I didn't move. I didn't flinch. My coat might have been old and my boots weren't designer, but I had something better than money at that moment. I had power. The two security guards hesitated. They weren't new. They knew me. Then Isabel followed their confused stares and turned toward the wall. She saw the plaque. Her face twisted like she'd swallowed bleach. Her mouth parted, and for once in her life she had no words. "Good evening," I said calmly, walking past her like she was just another guest. "Welcome to my hotel." Someone snorted behind her. A chuckle. A suppressed laugh. Derek's brow furrowed. I think even he realized something ugly was unfolding, and that it was all Isabel's doing. "Julie?" she asked, her voice strangled and weak. "Surprised?" I tilted my head. "You shouldn't be. I did tell you I'd make something of myself. You told me I'd end up in a gas station bathroom." She blinked, lips twitching like she was trying to reassemble her world in real time. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I added, stepping closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "I have a ballroom to oversee. And a memory to rewrite." I turned without giving her the satisfaction of seeing my smile. Behind me, I heard her sputtering. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just her pride crumbling like old stone beneath the weight of reality. I walked into the grand ballroom, where chandeliers hung like starlight and the air was thick with perfume and pride. Staff buzzed around me, not one of them looking past me. Not anymore. I'd spent 10 years clawing my way from waitressing in rundown diners to managing real estate in Dallas, to finally flipping 2 hotels and cashing in on the third. I invested every spare dollar, took brutal calls with Wall Street men who doubted me, and spent sleepless nights studying market trends while Isabel posted bikini photos from Miami. And now here I was, the woman she wanted thrown out. But this wasn't the end. Not even close. Because while she walked into my hotel expecting adoration, I walked in ready to light the fuse. And trust me, revenge burns brightest when you own the building it starts in. I was 18 when I learned that love had conditions and blood meant very little in a house like ours. We lived in a white-shuttered colonial on Willow Creek Lane, tucked neatly into the historic district of Charleston, South Carolina. It looked like something out of a Southern magazine: symmetrical rose bushes, towering oak trees that dripped with Spanish moss, and a wraparound porch that hosted wine nights for women who wore secrets like pearls. It was beautiful from the curb. But inside it was a house of glass, fragile, cold, and ready to shatter. My father, Richard Marshall, was the only warmth I had. He was a steel-spined attorney with a quiet laugh and calloused hands that never belonged behind a mahogany desk. He loved me in ways my mother never did, with patience, with belief. He called me his wild card, always said I had something dangerous and brilliant inside me, like a spark no one could kill. My mother, Elaine, saw it differently. She preferred Isabel, pristine, polite, the perfect reflection of herself. I was the cracked mirror she wanted to toss. Isabel learned early how to manipulate that. I think she realized by age 10 that the more she distanced herself from me, the more affection she got. So she made sure to align herself with every lie Mom spun, even when those lies ruined me. When Dad died, it was cancer, fast, aggressive, cruel. By the time I came home from my part-time job at the diner, he was already in hospice care. He slipped away before I could say goodbye. And then the will came. At the reading, I sat next to Isabel in the lawyer's office, the air stale with dust and old leather. She wore a black dress and no tears. Mom sat across from us, her lips thin, her hand clutching a monogrammed handkerchief she didn't use. The will was clear: $50,000 for me. The lake house in Blue Ridge, a trust fund for Isabel. Yes, but that was after she turned 25. Everything else was split. But that version of the will was never signed. A new one was presented, one I'd never seen. In it, everything, the cash, the house, the vacation property, even my dad's watch, went to Isabel. I got nothing, not even a letter. Richard rewrote it before the end, Elaine said. He worried about your judgment, Julie. He wanted to protect the family legacy. I didn't believe her. I knew Dad wouldn't do that. But I had no proof. Just my gut and the hollow pit in my chest where trust had once lived. Isabel stayed silent the entire time. I left the next morning with a duffel bag, $800 in cash, and a suitcase full of grief. I lived in my Honda Civic for 4 months. Parked behind a Shell station off I-26, showered at gyms, and ate fast food that scraped the last dollars from my wallet. I worked at a 24-hour diner in Augusta, slinging hash browns and coffee for men who never tipped. I lied to friends about where I lived. I swallowed pride like it was medicine. There were nights when I thought about going back, apologizing for something I didn't do, pretending to be the version of me they wanted, but I didn't. Instead, I got angry. Not in a petty way, not in a childish stomp-my-feet way. In a cold, clean, surgical kind of way. I moved to Dallas. Found 2 jobs, one as a hotel receptionist, the other cleaning rooms at night. I started to watch the managers closely, took notes. Learned what rooms brought the most income, which upgrades mattered, how to deal with guests, how to manipulate the reservation systems, when to bribe inspectors and when to stay invisible. I opened a separate savings account under a different name, ate instant noodles for dinner, skipped weekends, watched everyone else have lives while I plotted mine. Then came the motel. It was a roach-infested dump off Highway 67. The owner had a gambling debt and wanted out. I cashed out my savings, every gritty dollar, and bought it for $42,000. I slept in the office for 3 months, painted the rooms myself, fixed leaks at midnight. I renamed it the Maple Haven. Within a year, it turned a profit. I sold it, bought another, then another. By 29, I owned 7 small hotels. By 32, I bought the Gray Orchid in Atlanta for $6.4 million in cash. No partners, no banks. Just blood, sweat, and the kind of fire they thought they killed when they rewrote my father's will. But it wasn't until last year that the desire for revenge came roaring back. I was in New York for a conference. Sitting in my hotel suite, sipping lukewarm coffee, flipping through Harper's Lifestyle. And there she was, Isabel, on the cover. South's most elegant socialite, Isabel Marshall's rise to iconic grace. Grace? The woman who once kicked my dog for chewing her heels. The same girl who told people I was a kleptomaniac in middle school because I borrowed her lip gloss. Grace? The article quoted her as saying, "I've always believed success runs in our family." I was lucky to have a father who saw my potential. I threw the magazine across the room so hard it dented the wall. That night I sat in silence for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I planned. Not petty revenge, not online slander or subtle sabotage. No, Isabel wouldn't feel it unless it hit her where she lived. Status, money, reputation. I wanted her to lose everything. Piece by piece. So I started watching, tracking her. Not in the creepy way, in the calculated CEO-style way. I learned who her friends were, who she owed favors to, where she vacationed, who sponsored her lifestyle. I found cracks. And I started widening them. Her birthday party at the Grey Orchid? That was just the beginning. She thought I'd faded into nothing. She thought I was still the girl with dirt on her shoes and desperation in her eyes. But I'm not that girl anymore. I'm Julie Marshall. And I'm the storm she never saw coming. Atlanta was mine now. Every steel tower, every manicured block of Midtown, every executive who used to laugh at my name, they all walked under a skyline I helped shape. I built myself in the undercurrent of this city, in its silence and grit, while Isabel floated above it in champagne-soaked privilege. So when I saw her name on the booking request for the Grey Orchid, I didn't flinch. I smiled because fate had just handed me her neck on a silver platter. Her assistant, some dim thing named Myra, called and said they wanted a top-tier ballroom package. "Elegant but modern," she said, "and the guest list includes several public figures, so keep it discreet." I said we could accommodate everything, and we did. I made sure of it. The guest list landed in my inbox a week before the party. Names I hadn't seen in years. Men and women who once watched me scrub plates in Charleston, exes. A senator. My cousin Riley, who once laughed so hard when Isabel spilled red wine down my thrifted prom dress, I had to excuse myself and cry behind the gym. The whole damn toxic ecosystem was coming together under my roof. Perfect. I personally approved every detail. The imported orchids from Denmark. The vintage 1975 Glen Grant Scotch. And the band. The band. They were good. Exceptionally good. But I made sure they knew exactly who the owner was, and that their set list included one particular surprise. A slowed-down, sultry jazz version of Material Girl. Isabel once swore she'd never be caught dead at an event playing anything by Madonna. I couldn't wait to see her fake a smile through it. But my favorite touch? The $150,000 bill. Not a cent of it prepaid. All on hold, all pending. I made sure the final invoice was sitting in the manager's office the moment the party began, ready to be canceled if I gave the word. I wanted Isabel to feel the floor shift under her stilettos. The night of the event, the ballroom glowed like a golden cage. High ceilings, velvet drapes, champagne towers reaching nearly 7 feet tall. Guests glided in, dripping in dollar signs, the air thick with narcissism and narcissistic perfume. I kept to the edges, watching. Derek, her current trophy fiancé, made an entrance as if he were headlining a Wall Street scandal. Tall, tan, and utterly hollow like a bank account with no soul. I recognized a few of Isabel's old flames. Trent Davies, the tech guy who ghosted her in 2020, now wearing a ring and clinging to a man half his age. Eli Crawford, whose dad was once on the board of trustees for Charleston National. And, of course, Isabel's best frenemy, Delaney Vaughn, who smiled too wide, too bright, because that's what snakes do when they smell blood. The party was perfect. I made sure it was. For the first hour, then came the speech. It was time. Isabel took the stage spotlight on her like she was born in it. She wore that shimmering gold dress like it was armor. Derek held her hand. A hush fell across the room as she stepped up to the mic. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she purred. "I've always said a woman isn't defined by what she has, but by what she brings into a room." How ironic, I thought, stepping forward. I moved slowly, deliberately. The guests shifted, murmurs spreading like gasoline on pavement. And when I reached the edge of the stage, I held out my hand. "Happy birthday, Isabel," I said with a syrupy sweetness that could slice throats. "I'm the owner of this hotel. You're welcome." The mic trembled in her grip. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The lights hit her frozen face, eyes wide, cheeks flushed beneath the makeup. It was delicious. 100 guests turned from her to me. She didn't move, didn't breathe. So I helped her out. "I'd say let's raise a glass," I continued, "but I had your tab canceled. After all, homeless women shouldn't be paying for $150,000 parties, right?" Gasps, one or two nervous laughs. Delaney's eyes widened with glee. Isabel blinked like she was underwater, then she snapped. "You're lying," she spat. "This is some sick stunt. You're not even in hospitality, Julie." "Oh," I said, feigning innocence. "Did you think I'd still be sleeping in my car?" Security stood frozen at the edge of the room. One of the servers giggled. Isabel looked at Derek, but he just stared at me, no recognition, just confusion and intrigue. Men like him always wanted a woman with sharp teeth. "I told them to throw you out," she hissed. "And yet, I'm the one who can throw you out now," I said. "Irony's a bitch." Isabel's hands shook. Then, without warning, she hurled her champagne glass across the room. It shattered against the far wall. Guests flinched. One woman screamed. "Get her out!" Isabel screamed at the top of her lungs. "Get her out of my night." That's when Myra, her assistant, walked over. She whispered something in Isabel's ear. I saw the color drain from her face. Myra was holding a folded piece of paper. My invoice, with my signature, the hotel crest, and a big red voided stamped across the total. The tab was cancelled. She owed everything. And I wasn't paying a dime. Guests began whispering. "Wait, she's not paying for this? Did she say Julie owns the place? Oh my god, that sister she disinherited?" I let the humiliation marinate. It needed time to rot properly. Then I turned and walked away, calm, controlled, head held high. Isabel stood on stage alone, unraveling in front of everyone she ever tried to impress. And I knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. She needed to lose more than pride. She needed to bleed, not just metaphorically, financially, socially, publicly. This was the crack. Now I'd drive the wedge so deep it would split her world in two. 3 weeks after the party, the air in my office felt different, like something was shifting, finally. The storm I'd been building for a decade had torn through the marble columns of my past, and what was left standing was me. Not the girl who used to live in shadows, not the sister who got cast aside, not the nobody they wanted to forget. I was now a woman of power, wealthy, feared, and free. The Grey Orchid was running at full occupancy, my investors were circling for expansion, and my inbox was flooded with partnership requests. But amid all the glowing emails and congratulatory messages, my assistant Rachel entered the room like she was carrying a corpse in her hands. "Julie," she whispered, leaning in like the walls might hear her. "She's here." I didn't need to ask who. "She's been crying in the lobby for 20 minutes, Rachel said. "Begging to talk to you, no appointment." "No call, just showed up." I paused. "Let her in," I said flatly. "But give us privacy." Rachel hesitated, her lips twitching like she wanted to protest. I could see it in her eyes. She hated this woman on my behalf. She'd read the stories. She'd heard the voice memos from that night, she knew. But she nodded and left. When the door opened again, in stepped a stranger wearing my sister's bones. Isabel was unrecognizable. Her blonde hair was limp, roots showing. No designer purse, no makeup, no diamonds. Just puffy eyes, swollen lips, and a trembling hand clutching a cheap leather folder. She looked like she'd been crying for days. Good. She didn't even sit. Just stood there, mouth open, breathing hard like the air itself was punishing her. "I need help," she croaked. I leaned back in my leather chair, hands steepled under my chin. "Derek left me," she said. He said I embarrassed him. Said his firm doesn't want him associated with unstable women. My trust fund's frozen, Julie. Mom did it. She's punishing me for the party. She said I humiliated the family. So? I said. That one syllable made her flinch. She clutched the folder tighter. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'm scared. I'm broke. They took the condo. The car, my accounts are locked. The silence stretched, heavy like wet wool. I watched her shake beneath it. I was cruel, she admitted. I know that now. I was young. But Julie... You don't know the pressure I was under. What Mom made me do. I raised an eyebrow. I don't know. You think I don't remember how it felt to get thrown out like garbage while you played princess? Her voice cracked. I was scared. She told me if I didn't sign the fake will, she'd cut me off too. I was 20, Julie. I didn't know how to survive. She promised I could fix it later. I believed her. My stomach curled into a tight, cold knot. So it's true, I said quietly. Dad did leave me the inheritance. She nodded, guilt drenching every twitch of her face. He left you the money and the lake house.
He said you needed it more. He loved you, Julie. He was proud of you.
Something inside me buckled, then boiled. I stood, slowly, deliberately. I was homeless, I said, walking around the desk. I slept in my car for 4 months. I ate out of vending machines and scrubbed toilets in 2-star motels to survive while you posted beach photos and drank cocktails made of cash. Tears spilled down her face. I know. You could have told the truth. I was a coward. No, I snapped. You were selfish. And I want you to remember this exact moment every time you think about calling yourself a victim. She looked down, shame eating her from the inside. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. Good, I said coldly, because I don't give it. I walked back to my desk, opened the drawer, pulled out my checkbook. I wrote slowly, precisely, letting the sound of each stroke dig into her shame. When I tore the check out, I didn't hand it to her. I slid it across the desk like a final verdict. $10,000. For your next birthday, I said. You'll want a smaller venue this time. She reached for it with shaking hands. No strings? She asked, her voice hollow. Just one, I said. You disappear. No calls, no messages. No surprise visits. You don't get to suddenly be my sister again now that the ground's collapsed under you. You burn, Isabel. You burn in what you built. She nodded, then she left. No thank you, no goodbye. Just the soft click of the door shutting behind her. After she was gone, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, 31 floors above the Atlanta skyline. The city glowed beneath me, my empire, my justice, my proof. I thought I might cry. But I didn't. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was finished. For years I'd been carrying the hunger for vengeance like a second heart. It pumped through me, shaped every dollar I earned, every step I took, but now it was done. I'd ripped the truth from her throat, exposed her lies, stripped her status in front of her precious world. And in return, I gave her a scrap of kindness, a gesture she never would have extended to me. The girl who once got kicked out of a mansion now owned 3 penthouses across 2 states. The woman who was called homeless in front of a crowd now had more wealth than her entire family tree combined. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was Julie Marshall, hotel magnate, self-made millionaire. And the last woman you ever want to screw over. Especially if you're family.